what's your origin story? Let's pretend everybody's coming together as the Avengers, right? Like,
sure.
What's the content creator origin story? Because we see that you've been obviously collaborating with other friends of ours. And so, we can't let people have friends that we don't know.
Listen,
friends don't have friends that they don't know.
We're all connected. We're all connected. That's how it goes. So basically the story is really simple. I was battling Zionists on my Facebook account because I grew up on Long Island.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah.
Say no more.
Yeah.
North Shore, Nassau
South
County?
Shore. Merrick Belmore in the South Shore.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
Okay.
And I basically, my father was in the IDF. So let's get that out there. Okay.
As an American though, or you have
No. He was in Poland during World War II, and he was like a couple of months old. And then basically there, as my dad tells me, there were a bunch of boats out there and they chose the one to Israel. So they got to Israel. He was like 2 months old, 3 months old. And all of my family lives there. The only family I have in the US is my dad's sister and my mom's sister. Everybody else, and my parents live here. Everybody else lives in Israel. So I was as Zionist as they come. And literally as Zionist as you can be. And what would happen was I finished college, and then I basically started watching online news. And at the time, that was Cenk and the Young Turks.
Okay.
And I was in this complete battle of everything he was saying made sense to me. But then I'm like, but he's anti-Semitic. And it was a real battle for me. I was constantly like, what he's saying makes sense, but he's anti-Semitic. And this would go on from the Lebanon War. I'm not sure if it was the Lebanon War of 2006 to the Gaza War of 2008.
Okay.
And in between that time was when I kind of cracked my Zionist mainframe, as I call it. And then I started to see things a little bit unravel in terms of how everything was so disproportionate. That's what it came down to. A couple of missiles would go into Israel. Missiles, they're not even whatever they are. Rockets. Yeah. Very little damage. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's scary. There's a psychological fear of it. But then Israel would completely demolish in a whole neighborhood. And I would be like, how does this work? And I started to be very confused. Then from the 2008 war up until, I'd say, a solid 8 years, I was completely out of the idea that Israel is innocent, but I still believed that if you're Muslim, you want to kill me. So that took a whole other phase too, but ultimately I got there, and that's kind of my origin story. In terms of Facebook, I had a private account where I was trying to talk to my Zionist family and friends and trying to post things to get them to understand that there is another point of view. And throughout that process, I was losing people on and on and on, whether it be friends, whether it be family. So I was like really battle tested in terms of being able to talk about this outly. And then I started my Instagram account, and I didn't really care what I say. So people are so confused. Like, how are you okay saying that? And I went through. If you could deal with your family and lose your family, you can talk to anybody.
But where are your parents on this? I mean,
they're in Florida, and in terms of like
okay. First of all, everybody's Jewish parents are either in Florida.
They're all there. They're all there. I thought you were saying Israel or here. No.
Right.
So my it was very bad for a very long time.
Yeah. And
I had a very close relationship with my parents. I mean, I would visit every other month, every third month. Like, it was that kind of, I speak to them every single day. And I still call. My mom and my relationship, which is ironic because she was the lesser of the Zionists, has not fully recovered. We do talk as often as as often as I can.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. And my dad, who was worse at one point, I think has really taken a turn in terms of how we interact. And I think there's a lot to do with it other than my politics. I think it's just when you get older, you start to see who's calling and who's not, and your immediate family, they're always going to be there for you. So I think it's more of that vibe. But ultimately, he understands that we don't agree politically, and we don't agree politically in all facets. But we do have at least we have a relationship now, and it is getting better.
Because your dad is older than my dad, and you're a lot younger than me. So do you have older siblings, or were your parents a lot older?
I have an older sister, but we don't have a relationship, not because of completely outside of Zionism.
Right.
Yeah,
just other family crap.
Kind of, but yes. So that is a totally, I don't even put her on my radar in terms of if we're it has nothing to do with Zionism. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, but that's ultimately how it becomes so comfortable for me to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I actually try to talk about Zionism differently than others. I try to talk about it in terms of personal experience, as opposed to just doing a blanket statement of they're Zionist or I try to explain why that is a Zionist point of view, where the indoctrination comes from, and really dive in, so to speak.
Good. And you've been doing this since, I guess that would have been what, Cast Lead?
Since what?
Cast Lead. What was the operation you were saying in 2008? I'm trying to remember what that was.
I don't remember. It was the war in Gaza, and
yeah. Okay.
I don't remember what the actual
So you were well prepared for all of these talking points long before October 7th.
Yeah.
So was I, quite honestly. For me, we were too. We actually did a series on our show in October of 22 called Deconstructing Zionism.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, we had several panels, and we've had, rabbis that are non-Zionists. And so we've been trying to do this for a while, but obviously we've been on hyperdrive for the past couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, look, October 7th changed so much for so many people. And if I'm being honest, when I first started to post, I thought that I was going to get a lot of pushback in terms of where have you been? Why haven't you talked this? And why haven't you said that? But the reality is that and I think this is important for other Jews who want to come out. It doesn't matter when you start speaking. We need you. So if you're going to say something small, come. If you're going to start saying something big, I'm not going to push back people who are on my team. So if you're out there and you think you're doing better being on the sidelines, I'm happy you're with us. It doesn't matter who's speaking, but I did have a fear of people saying I'd have to kind of explain why my voice is okay now as opposed to 10 years ago. Right. Because that is how people react, especially online. They have these one-liners and, oh, where have you been all these years? And it's believe me, I've been fighting it just on a private Facebook account. If you saw that private Facebook account and the comments, it's outrageous. The things I dealt with. Now, none of them comment. None since I went public, which is very interesting. None of them. And sometimes I'll tag them in some of these posts, the people who would fight with me the most, no comment at all.
Because they know they'd be ratioed out the yin yang.
Yeah. So it's funny to see on the private profile, my God, will they comment? But on the public forum, not at all.
Well, you also have to wonder if they perceive the tide turning against them. And I think that's a huge part of it. I do think that in the early stages, it was the people that were, maybe a little too concerned about the reactions of too many people. And I understand that, you grow up in a certain environment and, we know how insulated, especially the affluent Jewish communities tend to be. And if you speak heresy, they will disown you. It's kind of like with Scientology. You're a suppressive person. We have to push you away because your groupthink is it's glitching right now, and we need to get you back in the fold. If you're not, then we will cast you out, or worse. And
I completely agree.
Yes, considering where you came from. I worked for the New York Mets, so I was out there all the time. And, a substantial portion of the fan base is Long Island Jewish. Like, it's just kind of a known thing. And I would just kind of see the regular interactions on a regular basis. And I can understand why people are, let's just say, they're not, they don't feel, they feel that they are not only not being accepted, but their culture and customs are ones that are not, we'll just say, customary to the average person. And they see what's been happening, and this just total rejection of reality. Oh no, we're the persecuted ones. And that's why I actually did a deep dive on that ad that Robert Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots, decided to fund for the Super Bowl last night, which I'm sure you saw, which is this, we're the same as black people, don't you understand? And I'm thinking, wow, they really don't get it. And what was even more interesting is that if you caught the end of the ad, they actually cut out the part where he said, yeah, I was tripping. And I'm thinking, oh man, that would not have gone over well. Even worse if they had
I didn't hear that part.
Yeah, no, I saw the entire, because the entire ad's a minute long. And so they had to cut it down for the Super Bowl. But with that being said, I do think that there is a level of disconnect that the average Zionist doesn't have. And I'm curious, how much of it do you think is a class issue? Because I believe that this almost universally, everyone thinks it's a Jew issue, but to me, it really is a class issue. Like, to me, that is as much of a defining characteristic of what this has all been about, which is we are very comfortable, affluent people. And when you don't listen to what we say, we kind of lose our minds over that. Don't deviate from our narrative. So how much of this do you see as being a class issue?
So if I'm being honest, I actually don't think it's much of a class issue, and I'll tell you why. Because I think it's fundamentally a supremacy issue. And if you think about it, there are poor people who think that they are superior over a Mexican person, over a black person. And I do think that Zionism creates a level of superiority just in the indoctrination of like what they explain to you, the us versus them, and the Gentiles and all of these. So the reason I don't think there's a class issue is because they're teaching this whether you are a rich kid or a poor kid. Think about it. Even when it comes down to going on birthright, as long as you're Jewish, you could be a poor Jew, you could be a rich Jew, you could go on that trip, and all of a sudden you feel like you are better than, in this case, Palestinians or Arab, however you want to think about it. So I don't know if it's necessarily a class issue. I think it's more on the lines of, we're better than you. We are separate from you. And when you think on those lines, even a poor person thinks that they are up here and everybody else is down here. I think
it's fair. I think that the class issue comes into play with who the power players are and who is able to have the kind of control over the narrative and who is able to manipulate platforms and who is able. And so the people that are pushing the legislation, the oligarchs that are taking over platforms, like, it's that level of elitism amongst the Jewish Zio class that unfortunately is what's really pushing this along the most. It isn't that those are the only people that believe it, right? But if you took that real elite class out of the mix, the message would kind of be DOA, right? Like, I don't know that it would be able to be as propagated with and I come from very working class Jews. Like, I come from, like, my people were from Brooklyn. I'm the first person in my family to go to college. My grandmother was a hairdresser. My papi was a mailman. I grew up on Miami Beach. Okay. So like very working class people, but they would say whatever the uppers, their betters would pass down, whether it's through the media, through writing, through whatever it is. And so I think it's the elite class that dictates the narrative more. That's what I think is the thing.